honest, Diane, I know your name. God, I said, and what was going through my mind was, don't stumble on Diane's name. And of course, that's the thing. So let that be a lesson to you. Do not put a fearful thought in your brain. Otherwise, you may act it out.
Manifest, right.
And then the other Yahoo is our resident co-captain, Eric Staudinger. No, Eric Hammond. We're back again with Fearless Flight Live, our weekly live streaming show every week, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern Time. And we just flashed over the other thing I want to mention is if you're not a member of our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather group, get over there. Shame on you. Get over there and join, because it's a great resource for anybody who's out there who knows somebody that's afraid to fly or afraid to fly themselves. So tonight we got a quick question. We'll give you a highlight here. Have you got your COVID-19 shot yet? I'm still working for mine, and I got a 95-year-old mom. She's supposed to be in the highest group, but man, I missed the boat apparently, and so I got to call in every week. Learned a secret today or yesterday about how to not beat the system, but maybe get a live person there. So, Coach's Corner, we're gonna talk about go back to the basics here for everybody. That's what we had a little meeting with all of our minds. And we decided that this show is about the basics. And we got a lot of regular viewers, and not that we want to discourage them, we really appreciate them, but we want to get out there and start talking to people who, for whatever reason, have decided that they're afraid to fly, but it's not time to do anything. So we want to get you out of your chair and into the air. We have a quick aviation news roundup, and then of course we always have room for your questions. So jot them down in the leave us a question there. And Dieter is wearing many caps, including director and monitor there. So he'll jump in there and help us out. So,
all right, let me just get to some of the answers in the poll. So Jim, hey Jim Duke, hope you're doing well. And Jim is saying nope, not yet. And then I can just also say hi.
Because Jim's such a young spring chicken, he's not old enough yet. Yeah.
Exactly, he looked because he cooks so well. Jim, I always
there you go.
All your recipe shots there on Facebook. So anyway, Michelle, hi Michelle, Sue from Boston, and that's Sue Hopkins. I'm sure Susan Miglagio will show up a little later. And are we ready for how to overcome fear of flying?
We are.
Okay, then let
me pick
that up and take it away.
Yeah, give us the
run.
Okay, cool. So, hey, I found this great book on how to overcome fear of flying. Oh, that's our book. I was going to say my book, but I can't say our. Every one of the people that's on tonight had a hand in that, one way or the other. Dieter had more than one hand in it, or two hands. He had 47 hands in there. But anyway, we want to go through this, and we're obviously not going to read it to you, but we're going to give you the highlights and hopefully inspire those of you who haven't read it, or those of you who do not have it and want to do something that you can get out there. This is a very low cost entry to get in there. It's on Amazon. You can get either the paperback if you're one of those people who likes the feel of it in your hand, or if you're somebody who is comfortable with electronic books like I am, you can just get the Kindle copy there. And the Kindle app comes free. You don't have to do anything, pay anything for that. You just go to Amazon and you download the Kindle app, and you can read it right on your iPad, your iPhone, or the non-iPad phone or non-iPhone.
Laptop.
Galaxy. Holy cow. Okay. So we talked about this last week. People complain often that they can't move forward because in their lives because they lack resources. Not just fear of flying, but other things where they want to make changes. And what's really more likely is, I know in my own case, it's not that I lack the resources, it's just that I lack the resourcefulness, and that is the getting down and figuring out how to do it. And that's really what we're here for here. We are here for both resources, but we're here to hopefully inspire you on resourcefulness as well. So let's look at a really great resource, if I do say so myself, and that is our book, How to Overcome Fear of Flying. It was written not to be a Pulitzer Prize winner, for sure. I'll be the first to admit that. But it was written to be practical and help you get over your fear of flying and give you some guidance so you can figure it out on your own. We're here to teach people how to fish, not to feed them fish. So I just took a couple of screenshots of the first part. Here's the table of contents. It's divided into 3 parts, which you can see in the next slide. Part 1 is the psychology of fear of flying. When you finish part 1, you'll understand fear of flying is an anxiety disorder, and you're not crazy, even though you may feel that way sometimes. It's also going to help you change the way you think about fear and flying. And if you don't change the way you think about your fear of flying, your life's going to go on the same way it always has. The last thing is it helps you recognize triggers. We'll discuss briefly what triggers are, and develop healthy responses instead of anxiety and panic. And who wants that? Who needs that? All right. Part 2 is about the basics of flight, and it's about all things flying. How an airplane flies, why it is so safe. It's the safest way to travel on the planet. You've heard us say that many, many times. That's over walking. I like to say, compare it to being a pedestrian. 7,000 people will die as pedestrians in the US this year, statistically, and we won't have anything like that, or even the years when we're having
And
full.
6,000 of them will be in Phoenix.
Yeah. Slow movers. And or I'll tell you what, probably all of them will be somebody looking at their stupid cell phone while they're crossing the street. That is an amazing thing, becoming more and more hazardous. Okay. Well, in chapter 2, you'll also learn about airworthiness and how do we keep airworthiness alive and keep everything safe. What's the big deal with turbulence? It's not a big deal unless you're afraid of it. And how do we manage all those gadgets and dials in the cockpit? Eric and I did a lot of collaborating on this about how we make flight plans, fly flight plans. And then we talk a little bit about flying over water, because that is oftentimes the #1 question that we get off of from you all out there is, what about flying over water? And you're not worried about flying over water. You just end up in the water. Okay. You want to know how we keep from doing that. And so we'll talk about that. Part 3, putting it all together. Learn what it means to be a fearless flight ace. That's a little acronym that we chose in there. Start changing the way you think about flying by imagining yourself without a fear. And it sounds crazy maybe, but that's one of the most important things that you have to learn how to do is think about what would your life be like without that? Because right now it's just totally overwhelmed whenever you even think about booking a flight for some of you out there. We'll teach you how to develop your own tools and strategies to cope with your fear of flying, and you'll learn how to create your own personal fearless flight plan so that you can, again, learn how to fish rather than wait for us to feed you fish. There's a quote that actually from Captain Ron, this wise, noble
philosopher.
Yeah. If you are what you eat, what does that say about what goes through your mind? Whoops, I did a typo there. We think about, a lot of us, at least, we pay attention. We're more mindful, which is a key word in our overcoming fear of flying inventory. But we think about what we eat more than we think about what we think, because we take it for granted that it's automatic and we don't have to worry about it. But the problem is what goes through your mind ends up in your unconscious. And that's why we teach mindfulness as a part of all this. And we'll talk about that in a little bit greater detail under chapter 3. Changing the way you think requires that you first learn how to pay attention to what you're thinking. And we'll touch on why that is just in a minute when we talk about the warning system in the brain. Okay, let's take a look at chapter 1. How you got here. You were born to worry. Chapter 1 helps you understand and normalize how you got here. It isn't a mystery. And when I say normalize, that means how did you get to think about flying the way you do? Because that's one of the first things you'll need to break through and have some concept of it, because you got to pay attention to that based on that quote. You can't get around something that you don't realize is percolating in your brain there somewhere. We're born to worry, as the slide suggests. The purpose of our brain is to 100% keep us alive. It's actually to keep the brain alive. The brain will sacrifice limbs, if you will, in order to keep itself alive. So that's just how much of how important it is. We evolved with a fight or flight system. You may know it as a survival instinct. Think of that as a built built-in warning system that we have, which is the foundation for why fear of flying and other anxiety disorders are so prevalent and so problematic for people. So let's call this warning system our smoke detector. I've used that reference before. A smoke detector detects smoke, but it can't detect the difference between burnt toast and a raging range fire. You know, if you got a pot that's burning on there, it responds with some sort of obnoxious sound and maybe a light. But I know my smoke detector mostly by the sound. And I have to admit that sometimes when the thing goes off, it's like, what the hell? Oh, and then you say, oh, it's the battery going low on the smoke detector, or it's some sort of warning there. And the only way to stop the warning is to disable it or stop whatever is causing the alert. And so the alert is the part that I want to focus on, because it's the alert that gets your attention when it comes to a smoke detector. And it's also the alert that grabs your attention when you're afraid to fly. And until you deal with that and find a way to respond to that, your life's going to be miserable in and around airplanes. More from chapter 1, our smoke alarm, as I said before, our version of the smoke alarm is called the amygdala. And you can see it highlighted in that graphic with the brain up there. Like a smoke alarm, it warns us of a potential threat. And that is potential. It's also like a smoke alarm because it can't tell the difference between a real threat or one that's a product of your imagination. And when it triggers our alarm, namely our attention, when it gets our attention, which is what our emotions and all those feelings and sometimes thoughts that we generate, when it grabs a hold of those, it's like a bulldog and it won't let go. It won't stop unless the perceived threat goes away, or mainly we figure out some way to respond, real or imagined threat. A false positive is something we perceive as a threat, but turns out to be not to be a threat, okay? And since false positives won't kill you, we're biased to be worried more about things, whether they're false or whether they're real, okay? And we don't invest a lot of time, especially if we don't know a lot about the topic, like flying, for example. We don't worry about it a lot of time or invest a lot of time in work dealing with false positives. But like I said, we're biased more because of that, because it doesn't cost anything if you're worried about something and then nothing happens. But when it comes to flying, as many of you know, there for many of you comes a time in your life when it gets in the way of your life. And so you got to learn how to get around that. Okay, there's another thing going on in the brain. The way it operates is system 1 and system 2. If I ask you how much 2 and 2 is, you'd come back with 4 without even thinking about it. But if I ask you how much is 24 times 17, you'd have to pause and think about it for a minute. Those are examples of the functioning of the 2 systems in our brain. And there's people out there that the psychologists that developed this identified them as system 1 and system 2. And we refer to them more in a more fun way as our elephant brain and our rider brain. You can see the various characteristics in that chart up there. It may or might not be high enough resolution for you there, but in the book, you can see it right up close. One system 1, effortless, nearly automatic, and rarely in doubt. We used to joke, a good captain is someone who may not be in doubt, or it may not be right, but never in doubt. That's kind of the way system 1 operates, is it doesn't really know whether it's right or not sometimes, but it's never in doubt. The other is effortful. System 2 requires deliberation and requires more time to process the information. And that's the key, time to process information. That's why slowing down is essential when you're overcoming fear flying and you're learning how to manage and identify your thinking. Knowing how to intervene when your elephant, that system 1, is out of control is essential to changing your response to those triggers. Chapter 1, again, goes into more detail than I will be discussing here tonight about recognizing and understanding the differences. And the last thing we want to talk about is the stories that we tell ourselves. We've used this E plus R equals O I've used that for over 20 years. And it's a simple formula for understanding my own personal reactivity. E plus R. E represents an event, a situation, or a circumstance that occurs in my life. And R represents my reaction. My reaction often has an underlying story or belief that I tell myself that may not be true. And O is the outcome. So for any given event that happens in your life, if you react in a negative way, the outcome is going to be undesirable or certainly not what you wanted. So if I want to change the outcome, my only choice is to change the way I react or respond to events. And we're assuming that the events in our life happens, okay? We don't have control over that. And many of you have confessed to me that the bottom line on all of this is control. And some of you wish that you could do Diane's job, or you could do Eric's job, or my job, you know, and I can guarantee you that if Eric and I were still flying, ain't no way we're going to let you up in the cockpit there, other than to observe if that were possible. So the only thing you can control is your response to things that happen or perceptions that you have. That is the ultimate cure for fear of flying, changing the way you think. Okay. In conclusion, the chapter 1 is all about how the brain creates stories from our life experiences, especially when it comes to fear of flying. Most of us do not have a context or an understanding about flying. You simply don't know if you're not a pilot or don't have an aviation background. And the brain abhors a vacuum. If it doesn't know the answer to a problem or a situation or a question, it will make one up. And that doesn't work out well for most of you as fearful flyers, because you can't make up correct answers to something you know nothing about. Knowledge is, in fact, power. Learning more about fear and flying is the foundation of overcoming your fear and your anxieties. If you stick with us, you'll be able to do just that. Okay.
All right. So
I'd like to take a quick, any comments from the peanut gallery there?
no, not directly to the book, other than the people that have read it have really given it the thumbs up. And also,
And they weren't my relatives.
no, they were
Okay.
not
You know,
actually. They were
No. And friends.
retired
We actually have-
librarians, retired librarians.
We actually have people that said that.
So-
Okay, going to do a quick commercial here for the Fearless Flight Kit. If you are afraid to fly and you do nothing else, you need the Fearless Flight Kit. Okay, I could say a little bit more, but that's the truth.
God, I thought this.
It really, 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 really helps you. And what the way it works is, you've got this little voice. Remember the stories we tell ourselves? You've got that little quiet little voice in there that's triggered by your amygdala, your smoke detector. And once it goes off, it's virtually impossible, unless you've done some work in advance, to get rid of that. With one exception. I have had people without any other contact with me or the staff here purchase the Fearless Flight Kit using just the resources in there, and especially the Fearless Flight Harmonizer, which is an audio program. They have been able to drown out that little voice and make their flight, and not just make the flight, but have a much better experience than they've ever had before. Because the secret is we've got the silence, that little screaming maniac in there that says, "What are you doing, Ron? I thought we had this deal. We weren't going to fly." And I got a person that I'm working with right now who's going to fly for the first time ever this coming Saturday, and I'm really excited. And I've got her practicing every day with the Fearless Flight Kit. I have people that will call me up 2 days before they have to fly, and sometimes they'll do an hour of coaching. But at the very bottom line is they will end up getting the Fearless Flight Kit, and for just $197. And it's not like, you use it once and throw it away. No, you use it for the rest of your life, or at least the time when you get anxious. And one of the problems with many of you is that you don't fly enough to really build up as fast, as rapidly as, say, Eric or I who fly, or Diane who fly every day. So that's a good thing to have the Fearless Flight Kit, because you can fly and then not fly again for another year or two or more. And now when you get within 30 days, you start the protocol, which is outlined in the kit. And you start every night, every morning listening to it, and then during the day when your anxiety comes up, just long enough to notice when the bulldog lets go and your attention comes back under your control. So get the Fearless Flight Kit. You can see some of these satisfied users up here are among literally thousands of people that have used the kit successfully. $197. Go to the link here and you can learn more about it. All right. Next week, we are going to continue our journey on going through the how to overcome fear of flying. And we're going to talk about chapter 2, the biology of fear. So make sure you come back and tell other people out there if you're in touch with other people who either are not aware of Fearless Flight Live, or maybe they attend only sporadically. But make sure you come back next week. We're going to do the same kind of thing. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about aviation news. Okay, take it away, Eric and Diane. You guys are both illuminating me since I was working so hard on this on the earlier part.
Just before you guys take it away, I just want to jump in here with the comments real quick. So Susan Miglaccio, yes, there will be an audiobook eventually. Here's how it's gonna be rolled out. We are currently, and especially Diane, who is very astute, and hopefully Jim, you'll be part of it too. We're going through the book right now, which is why we're actually sharing it with you as well. So it's kind of like a great opportunity for us as well, because we want to update the book and then have version 2 come out, hopefully just in time for Christmas. That's the idea. And then we're also gonna, from that point, create an audiobook for it. And so it'll take a little bit of time. That little thing called pandemic, I think, changed the course of a lot of our lives and a lot of our yes. So
and my gallbladder. Can I show you my scar now? No.
Yeah,
No.
no.
Never.
And I want to add on top of what Dieter's talking about. If you listen to me at all, you know what a big fan I am of audiobooks. That's the way I get 95% of my information. It's just so convenient now to have your cell phone and you can take it with you everywhere and on and off, and you can really, really digest a lot of material. The other thing about it is that, and come back, please, tonight in this thing. And it's not just about the audio version. The regular version has links in it, hot links in there, which are filling in as we go, so that it makes it an interactive experience, both the regular book and the audiobook. Ultimately, the audiobook is going to be in a new genre where we have more than just the text from the book. You'll get a lot more there.
And really quick, there's a question that I think you kind of answered, but Tracy said she's got the Fearless Flight Kit. She knows exactly what you're talking about in terms of coming back to it. But she's wondering, because she's not quite yet sure when she's going to fly next, but she knows she will. So she's asking, should she already be starting to listen to it, or what?
3 to 4 weeks, Tracy. Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks seems to be a kind of a really good thing in there. If you wait till the day before, that's probably a little bit long. But if you go 3 to 4 weeks, listen to it at night, in the morning, and you just start to get back in the swing. And people report that it comes back. And even people who feel anxious up until the time they get on the airplane, usually once you get through the first 2 minutes, everything falls into place. And a lot of the things that you took for granted have now taken over. Okay. And the way you know for sure that you are getting through your fear of flying is if, after listening to the harmonizer, you listen to it enough, you want to reach through and strangle me. Then you know you are getting better. Your fear of flying is no longer the issue. Okay. And that's an easy fix. You can just turn it off and put something more. And if you, no matter who you are, this is the crazy thing. If you've got the Fearless Flight Kit and the harmonizer, turn that harmonizer on. If you have any doubts at all, listen to it. Somebody drives you to the airport, you listen to it on the way. They park the car, you listen to it. You walk into the terminal, they listen to it. If there's somebody's flying with you, they become your seeing eye person, and their job is to keep you from stumbling over people or knocking people over, because you're going to be like a teenager with your crazy sounds in your ear, and you just keep listening to it all the way until you can't stand me. That's the way to do it.
I will inject here that after watching a lot of classes, procrastination on this does not pay off any more than procrastination on filing your taxes, studying for final exam, anything else. It's a bad idea.
Right.
And number two, when you listen to the harmonizer and it helps you, which has helped so many people, but if you listen to the harmonizer and you feel like clubbing harp seals to paste for their pelts, you're healed.
There you
You're
go.
healed.
There you go.
Then flying will be the lesser of any evil.
Not a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Okay.
right, take it away, Diane and Eric.
So,
Yeah,
so one of the things you were talking about is flying is coming back. I saw an article online that Delta is recalling pilots, quite a few pilots in the numbers of the hundreds, which is a really, really, really good sign when the mainline airlines are calling up their crew and saying, hey, listen, we need you to come back and fly with us again. That's
especially in view of the fact that they lost 12 billion last year. So believe me, they're
Well,
not
I'm not
calling anybody back.
That's a flesh
They're
wound.
not calling pilots back until they got a high level of confidence that they're going
Right.
to use them.
that they're going to use them, and they're passengers. So flying is coming back. Flying is coming back. So
And my
And
airline was-
COVID-19. When
And
you
my
guys
airline-
had an update on COVID-19? Just
oh
I
yeah.
was gonna say- Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that coming out of Washington, there's more information with regard to the mandate for wearing masks, not just in the airport, but on the planes, because up until now, that pretty much has been the policy of individual airlines. But it's looking as though this is going to be more of a federal mandate. The timing, the implementation is still a little iffy, but there are words with regard to interstate transportation, of course, which flying is one, so that it's looking at as though that will be the mandate, which will help us as flight attendants, because
yeah,
there are a lot of things that we need to deal with on a plane, and trying to deal with a non-compliant passenger is difficult to begin with, but this puts more teeth in the fact that passengers, if they do not obey crew instructions, it's a federal offense. And so it's
yeah.
good.
And who needs it? Come
Yeah.
on, come on. What do you give up by protecting other people from your stuff?
Right.
Now, I'll just say a quick thing too. The double masking, they came out with the new strains
I saw that.
wearing a double mask. And I've seen
Wearing double.
couple of people in public doing that now. So get with the program. Flying, we were talking, when would you fly? If anybody asks me, I'm going to wait, frankly, now, because I'm close enough to I don't have a reason to fly. That's the biggest reason I'm going to wait. But the other one is I'm going to wait till I get the vaccine. It makes sense to me just to have that extra little bit of insurance, hopefully. I don't know about you guys, how you feel about it.
Eric, what about you? Yeah.
Well, along the lines of what Diane said, saw that deal about Delta recalling pilots. My company, which has a crew base in Phoenix, all the airlines been granting leaves all the way along to minimize the cash loss and that kind of thing. And they used to be 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, permanent, that kind of thing. And now the only leaves they're granting are 30 days at a time. So they want everybody really current. They want to get out of spending the money month to month to month. Every month, but they want to be able to call people back on a 2 or 3 week notice to put them back in. So they think, as the sign is in the cartoon, the guy carrying around the sign, the end is near. They think the end is near, and they want to be able to call up crews really fast.
And I can speak to that, Eric, because I know that in Europe and in Asia, as well as in Australia, there's a big push from aviation organization, interest groups, and the travel industry, because 1 in 10 people on this planet works in the, travel and yeah. So I mean, we're talking about massive impacts globally. And so when we figure out again how we make it not just safe, but also humanly desirable to travel through all these hoops, that's a big push, and Canada is going to come out tomorrow, I think, with a new regulation, like we've already had for over a month, well, longer actually, the fact that you have to have an app or access to a terminal where you had to answer questions before you even ever see an airplane or anybody on the other side of security. So they have already had really good success with that. And globally, there's going to be something like a COVID passport app that hopefully is as integrated as it can be. So,
So you're on notice, all of you out there, with using COVID-19 as an excuse, using the 737 MAX, you're about to run out of excuses. And we're just the people that will remind you of that. All right?
Yes.
or say it another way, it's if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail, and you're gonna want to fly again. Why not start it while there's not, like the anxiety is so high,
Right.
So.
And I've been flying,
Absolutely.
we were talking earlier, over the last year, I have flown thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of miles, and I have not gotten anything. So, and that's just from masking and washing my hands and all of the simple things.
Being
that-
diligent and smart.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah. I went through 2 hospitalizations. My mom went through 2 hospitalizations. We didn't get, that was my biggest fear, was going to the hospital in this environment there. So anyway, all right. So COVID-19, we're about to kick your ass. And for those of you using it as an excuse not to fly, we could kick yours too. So keep coming back. It's been another episode of Fearless Flight Live. We'll be back again next Tuesday night. Thanks to the crew here. And thanks to you all for giving us somebody to talk to. All right. Have a great week and keep them flying. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
everybody.
Susan.